Hello, everyone. Welcome back to this week's Cedarville Stories podcast. I'm Mark Weinstein. With college basketball season in full swing, I thought today was a great time to go back into the archives and have head coach Rob Jones, Cedarville's second-year coach, on the program. I hope you'll enjoy today's program. Let's go to my conversation with head coach Rob Jones on the Cedarville Stories podcast. So welcome to Cedarville, Coach. It's great to have you in studio. And as we sit here, as this podcast is ready to air, you are 2 days away from tip-off, your first season as a head basketball coach, first year at Cedarville University. But what I'm interested in knowing at the start is, what's your transition been like to Cedarville? Because you got hired late July, so it had to be like drinking from a fire hose. So what's the transition like for you?
It's been a whirlwind, to say the least. So many of the very early days, I'm a creature of habit and I really desire routine. Yeah. And no day was the same. Everything was, you need to meet this person, you need to meet with this group, you need to meet your team, all these different things. And so there was just a lot of newness all along the way. The drinking from the fire hose thing was real.
So have you made the move?
Yes.
House and everything?
Yep. Settled here in Cedarville. And so my wife and I are excited about that. It felt like a really special day when we got everything that we own was in the state of Ohio. That felt great. And so we're settling in nicely.
So when I read your bio, I talked to some people who know you. What came out to me is basketball. You've always loved basketball. You played basketball, and now you coach it. When did you first get interested in playing the sport of basketball back in Missouri?
From as early as I can remember. So my dad loved sports, and I think I was drawn to kind of all sports, especially the baseball, football, and basketball. Sure. And basketball just seemed to be the one that I probably was just drawn to the most. I grew up in a really cool neighborhood. We had a bunch of kids, probably 12 to 15 kids in the neighborhood that were all within about 4 years in age of each other.
Okay.
And so it was fun to just grow up and like every day you come home from school and you played, Right. And so we played a ton of basketball, played a ton of wiffle ball and street football and things like that.
Yeah, I remember growing up for me, regardless of sports season, it was like it would come home from school, never did any homework. So that was never.
I'm with you.
There was never an issue there.
Yeah.
Go out and play the game till dark, right? Is that what you?
Yeah. Yeah. It was fun because we all lived so close together and got to compete and do a bunch of fun things. And it was pretty seasonal. We whatever the popular sport was at the time, we probably played that a little bit more. But basketball, was definitely the one that I loved the most. And as I got older, that was the one that I kind of focused in on.
Did you have siblings that you competed with?
No. So I have an older sister who was gifted in every realm outside of sports. Like she didn't play sports growing up, very gifted musician. And I come from a music family, even though I have none of that talent. And so it was very different. We were involved in very different things. She's a few years older than me.
Okay.
But it was great to see her. She thrived in so many areas outside of just the sports realm.
Sure. So for our listeners, Rob is from Jefferson City, Missouri, or that area. He went to New Bloomfield High School. And as a junior, I believe you helped your team make it quite far in the state tournament. Yeah. Tell us about that situation.
So we were a small classification in the state of Missouri, and we had a small team. Like we had a bunch of guards, but we had a really talented group. We had 5 guys. We were the smallest classification in the state of Missouri. And we had 5 guys that went on to play college athletics. So, 2 of them ended up playing baseball and the others ended up playing basketball at different levels, And so that was a special group of guys. I still stay in touch with several of those guys to this day. But we made it all the way to the state Final Four. I think that was a little bit of a surprising feat for that team at that time. But it was a really fun season.
So by saying you made it to the Final Four, it tells me you didn't win that game to get to the finals.
No, we lost in the semis.
How close?
Yeah, we lost by like 8. Yeah, it was a close game, but we lost to a better team on that day, and that oftentimes happens.
Yeah.
But in the state of Missouri, like that's kind of the recognition of going through your state playoff system. Once you make it to the Final Four, those Final Four games are played at the University of Missouri. And so that was, as a kid, that was pretty cool, playing in a big arena that
Right.
I had watched so many games growing up in that arena. So to play there was really cool.
Yeah. As a high school athlete playing basketball, were there any lessons that your coach taught you even then that maybe you have brought with you even to this point in your head coaching career?
Yeah, I think work ethic and just attention to detail, showing up every day, like, those are the common themes that sometimes sometimes it's said that they're cliche or that's coach speak.
Right.
Well, there's a lot of reality in that, like showing up and being consistent, being the same person every day. I played for coaches that exemplified that, and that taught me a lot. It wasn't. I was really fortunate. I didn't play for a coach that was moody, that reacted a certain way after wins or losses. The men that I had a chance to play for were really consistent, and that was tremendous for me in desiring to become a coach.
Sure.
To have played for guys like that.
So is there a coach in your whether coaching career or your playing career that really influenced you the most?
Boy, they all had such an influence on me. I was with Chris Mooney for 17 years at the University of Richmond.
Mm-hmm.
So I think definitely by the amount I was a little bit younger when I started with him and was a little bit older when I finished. So you can imagine 17 years of development. I would have to say that I learned the most from him, and definitely that was a part of the time and who I was growing and becoming during that time as well.
What are some things that he taught you?
The intensity of each day and just like how important each practice, how to not waste the opportunity, to not waste the moment. There was no question for our guys that his enthusiasm and his passion for practice, there was no doubt that was the highlight of his day.
Really?
And so that is something that is stuck with me, that to be that energetic and to be that fired up about, some would say you have close to 100 practices throughout a season and you ramp it up for each one of those. And that was a true desire for him. Like his passion to help that team to grow and to be better that individual day, that was real. That wasn't something he had to psych himself up to do.
Yeah. From your high school days, you went on to Toccoa Falls,
mm-hmm.
and you played basketball there as well.
Yeah.
How competitive were your teams, and do you have a favorite memory from those 4 years you played?
Yeah, I don't know if I could isolate it to one favorite memory, but the lasting memory is that I am still, that's 25 years ago, and it's like I'm still in touch with the guys that I played with. Like we're in a group text together, and we still make fun of each other and still poke at each other. And,
the way it should be.
Yeah, and that's what teammates do.
Right.
And I always tell people, like I tell the kids that we recruit now, it's like if you make the right decision and you choose the right school and the right locker room, you're going to have relationships that'll be with you for the rest of your life. Multiple teammates of mine were in our wedding. Both of my parents have passed away, and I had multiple teammates at each of those funerals. And that's special. Like as people got married, had children, all these things, we've been able to be there for one another, for the good moments and for the hard moments. And that would be like something that you don't necessarily, when you're 18, 19, 20 years old, like you don't probably think about that quite as much.
No.
But I'm extremely thankful for that. God brought a group of men into my life at that time that we were all growing and becoming who God had created us to be, and to still be a part of each other's lives to this day, I think is really special.
So that leads me to thinking this, that when you finally knew you were coming to Cedarville, you probably contacted some of those guys.
Yeah.
How'd they respond?
Yeah. Excitement. Those guys, they've been a part of my life and my coaching journey. We typically try to get together as a group once a year. And so every year you're kind of checking in with different guys and how's your family? How's your kids? How's the job? How's all this different stuff? And so you're kind of checking in. And always the question would become, Rob, how close are you to wanting to become a head coach, or is the right opportunity, Right. And so those conversations would always kind of come up. Honestly, as my wife and I were coming to Cedarville for the kind of interview process, I had reached out to all the guys and let them know, and just asked them to be praying for us and praying for the clarity of our decision.
Right.
And so I got several texts while we were here during that time, and how's it going? And then the decision came pretty quickly, and so they were all excited for us.
So let's go back to the Cedarville search process.
Mm-hmm.
So Coach Estep resigned in July. The process begins late July, I believe, and you contact us. I don't know. You can tell us how that all went through, but walk us through the process, because that was lightning quick.
Yeah.
That was really rare that in a matter of days, we had Pat's replacement.
Yeah. So that's kind of how it works in college athletics these days.
Okay.
It does move really quickly. It was the last recruiting period of July. So we're out on the road watching AAU teams play.
You were at Liberty.
Yes.
Okay.
And so it was the last weekend. So we're heading into the last 3-day stretch of the evaluation period. Actually was traveling. I was traveling down to Atlanta. I was in the hotel when I got a call from Richie McKay, my boss at Liberty.
Yeah.
And Coach McKay called and he said that, hey, I'm not sure if you've heard, Pat Estep has taken another job. And I just spoke with the athletic director, Chris Cross at Cedarville. They would be interested in talking with you. What is your interest level? And I literally had just finished working out and was getting ready to shower and get on the road and all this. Right. So my mind was kind of like, whoa, that came from left field. I said, well, yeah, I'd definitely be interested. I know a little bit about Cedarville, but I'll need to do a little bit of research. I don't know a ton.
Right.
And so I was hustling to get out the door, jumped in the car, and I'm heading to the event that they're going to be recruiting at. And so my mind is kind of racing, and I quickly tried to do a little bit of research. And then I've known Pat Estep for many years. And so I called Pat later that day and I said, hey, Pat, what can you tell me about Cedarville?
Yeah.
And of course, he had so many amazing things to say about a special university and the people that make up this university.
Right.
And so after talking with him, I did some more research. In the midst of all this, I had reached out and talked with my wife. And so she was doing the same thing. She was researching. And so then it quickly went from there to athletic director Cross had reached out and we spoke on the phone.
How soon thereafter? How long a time elapsed?
So actually that was probably whenever I got off the phone with Coach McKay, Chris Cross had called within like 20 minutes.
Okay.
So I actually spoke to him, the initial conversation, before I ever spoke to Pat.
Okay.
And so spoke to him. It was a pretty, probably a fairly surface conversation. I'm sure he was talking with a lot of people trying to figure out who were the legitimate candidates for this job. And so we got off the phone and he had said, okay, we'll be in touch. And so in the meantime, doing my research, talked with Pat and all that. And then the next day, I talked with Chris Cross the next day. And the conversation went a little longer and it was a little bit deeper and I thought it went pretty well. Yeah. And then I get a text about an hour later after that conversation. And he says, our president, Dr. White, would like to speak with you. Are you available this evening? I was in the midst of running in and out of the gym, evaluating games and all this. So I said, yeah, just let me know what the window of time is best for him. So we end up connecting on the phone that evening. I'm sitting in a rental car in the parking lot of a gym
in Atlanta,
while I'm having a conversation with the president of the university. I joked with my friends. I said, I didn't have time to be nervous because I was like running out of a gym and just hopping on a phone call with Dr. White. But felt like the conversation went really well. There was from the beginning of it in talking with Cross and talking with Dr. White, like there was no doubt there was alignment for what my heart is for a college basketball program and how that fit into the vision of the university. And so that alignment meant everything to me and my wife. And so that was, that process moved pretty quickly after that conversation with Dr. White. he had invited us to campus for an official kind of interview day. And we did that, that was within 7 days. And so from the start from the very first conversation to being on campus was like 7 or 8 days. So it moved pretty quickly.
And then you accepted it a few days later?
Yeah. So we came up, spent the beginning of our day started with Dr. White and Athletic Director Cross. I believe it was at 9 a.m. and we got back to our hotel room that night at like 10:30 p.m. And so it was a long day. It was a whirlwind of meeting different groups of people throughout campus and spending a lot of time with them and just trying to find that genuine heartbeat of the university. My wife and I had talked about it as we were traveling to come to campus, and we said our prayer was that we would truly be just involved in authentic conversation throughout the day. That at any point in time, if it felt like we were performing for an interview or performing to receive an offer or whatever, like that we were done, that we were just going to walk away, that wasn't going to be the right situation for us. So we wanted to make sure that it was going to be genuine, authentic conversation throughout the day. And so it was built on those relationships.
Yeah. So I want to go back in a minute, but before I go there, was there a moment, was there a word, was there a phrase that was said during the interview process with you and your wife on campus that said, this is where I need to be. This is where I'm supposed to be. Yeah,
that would have been a lot easier if it would have just been like that moment, that one word, that one thing. But no, and my wife and I, again, leading into it, we had been praying for, as oftentimes you do, heading into a situation where it's a big decision. And we were praying for direct clarity about that decision. And it was not one moment. It was not one conversation. It was all of them. It was slowly but surely, we felt like that door just continued to
stay open.
Yeah, it stayed open, and by the end, we felt like it was wide open. And we processed and we talked and we discussed things. Actually, the travel was great because we were able to spend a ton of time in conversation to kind of ask questions to one another and just kind of talk about it.
Both ways. Right? Yeah,
both
ways
for sure. And again, it was. So I mentioned the 9 a.m. to 10:30 p.m.
Yeah.
Like that was a long day. By the time we got back to the hotel that night, we didn't even know how to process everything that had happened throughout the day. You're kind of just you're a little bit spent emotionally from the day. So we slept that night and had coffee with Chris Cross the next morning before we left, and it just that was probably one of the moments that conversation felt just really casual. Just felt like there was a peace about the conversation. Okay. Again, it didn't feel as if we were trying to perform to get a job offer, and it didn't feel like we were being pressured into an answer. Just felt like a genuine conversation of. Yeah. Hey, what information can we share with you?
Yeah. Humanly speaking, I've been a follower of sports all my life. So I'll use me as an example. To me, it seems like, and I'll put in air quotes, going backwards, going from Division I to Division II, and even being a head coach at Division II. Mm-hmm. Was it difficult to leave a Division I program, or was the mission fit with Cedarville too strong to pass up?
Too strong to pass up, without question. And so this started probably close to a decade ago. My wife and I had talked about it a lot, and we had started the process of praying very specifically that if God was going to give us an opportunity to lead a college basketball program, what that was going to look like. And one of the things that we felt really strongly about, that it wasn't going to be based on a certain level. So that wasn't going to be, didn't have to be a Division I school, didn't have to be a Division II, didn't have to be a Division III. So the level wasn't going to matter. And then also the location wasn't going to matter.
Okay.
And so it was, if we felt like that this is what God had in store for us, that was going to be evident to us. And there were two pieces to that we felt really, again, over a period of time of praying about it, we felt really clearly that it was going to be that we felt really strong about the mission fit of the university, that we were going to be in direct alignment in belief and support of what the university, what their mission statement truly is. And then we felt like there was going to be a direct alignment with the leadership, specifically the president and the athletic director.
Right.
So as it would happen, that was very clear to us.
Yeah. So earlier on the podcast, I mentioned that I talked to some athletic administrators. In preparation, I try to do as much research as I can. And I talked with the former Albany State University and Maryville University athletic director, Tony Duckworth, who I worked with at Maryville.
Oh, how about that?
And he said to me, hiring Coach Jones is a great fit, a great hire, a slam dunk, he said. So hearing that, this may make you a little awkward. What makes you a great fit, a great hire for Cedarville?
Oh, I don't think I can answer that.
I know, I told you, it's tough. Come on, you can.
I'd tell you what, so Coach Duckworth, I had no idea that was going to be a name that would come up here. I was coaching in high school. I was coaching and teaching in high school when I met Coach Duckworth. He was a Division III coach in the state of Alabama at the time. I had reached out to him about if he would be open to allowing me to come watch a practice.
Oh, it was one of his practices.
One of his practices. And so I was in the Atlanta area at the time and drove a couple hours, and we had lunch, and I watched him practice, and he was kind enough to sit with me, and he probably talked basketball for 2 hours, just talking hoops and watching film in his office. And he was so kind to me. And that's one of those things that will always stand out to me, that anytime somebody reaches out and says, hey, do you have time to talk? Do you have time to, I've got a few questions for you. I think of Coach Duckworth, and I think, man, he didn't know me anything. And that was really kind and gracious of his time to spend it with me.
So back to, try to make you a little more uncomfortable.
Yeah.
When you look at, I'll present it this way. When you see Cedarville and you see Rob Jones, what makes that, in your mind, a match made in heaven?
Yeah, I hope that it is someone that loves the Lord and wants to be a part of young men's lives to help them grow in every aspect of their life, to help them to grow in their faith walk, to help them to grow as athletes, to help them to grow as young men to become men. And hopefully that's to be great husbands, to be great fathers, to be great members of a church, to be great members of a community. I hope that we can teach them lessons that will feed them all throughout their lives. Yeah. And one of the things that I've talked about a lot with our players is that everyone wants to be the best version of themselves. And I truly, truly believe that for us to be the best version of ourselves, especially as Christians, that is going to be in direct relationship to our spiritual growth. Yeah. And so I think that spiritual disciplines are really important. Our spiritual growth will ultimately help us to become who God has created us to be, help us to steward those gifts well. And so that'd be the answer to that question.
So you've been on campus for about 4 months at this point as we air this program. What have you enjoyed most about Cedarville? Anything surprise you?
I don't know that anything has been a surprise. I would just say it's been even greater of an experience than I would have thought. Everyone talked about, and I'll go back to Pat Estep, talked about how special the people are. And he was right. And I thought the people were going to be like really welcoming and warm, and it's been even better than I could have imagined. And so that piece has been great. The beauty of the campus, I thought it was really nice. I get here and I'm like, this is really nice.
It's a little smaller than Liberty, but it is a beautiful campus.
It's a beautiful campus. Yeah.
Yeah. So I alluded to earlier that this is your first head coaching job. I had to me, a premier Christian university in the country.
Mm-hmm.
That's in my mind a no doubter. But as you prepare to tip off in a couple of days, do you anticipate any pressure, whether it's self pressure that you're putting on yourself or undue pressure because now you're a head coach? Is that a fair question?
It's more than a fair question. Yeah. I think as coaches, you naturally, you put pressure on yourself. I think where it becomes really unhealthy is when you transfer that onto your players. And so I think that's something that all coaches are aware of, and you try to be really careful that you don't make the moment bigger than what it is. And ultimately, at the end of the day, we're trying to be as present as we can be in that moment, and not put the undue pressure on it. The best way for us to have the greatest chance at the desired result is to give everything that we have in each of those moments. And that's mentally and physically, not being, so if you concentrate on the result, you're undoubtedly going to put pressure that's going to take away from your ability to concentrate on the task at hand. And so we'll work really hard to not do that. Yeah. It's human nature to do that from a coach's standpoint, from a player standpoint. Yeah. So we talk about it. Like we don't want to act like that stuff doesn't exist. So we spend time in our locker room talking about those moments, talking about pressure, talking about the reality of things, and then saying, okay, we know this is gonna be something that we could face. How do we want to combat it?
And that's the key. Pressure. There's nothing wrong with pressure, but it's how you deal with the pressure, and that's what your job is, to teach that to your players. Yeah.
And sometimes that'll go really well, and sometimes it won't.
That's right.
And so the ability to realize, like, we will strive for growth and learning and development in the midst of adversity, in the midst of heartache, in the midst of a loss. And I think that is something that, that's a lifelong lesson. If that's something that we can continue to work on and grow in that way, then we're equipping and preparing our players for many things outside of basketball as well.
Let's go back to your years at Richmond, your 2 years at Liberty. What did you learn from those coaches, those experiences, that you think is going to be most beneficial as you start this year as head coach at Cedarville University?
Yeah, it's so many things. I could give you 100 things.
I'm sure you can.
Yeah. So Chris Mooney has an incredible gift of being able to be really passionate, as I talked about, like in each day, in each moment. Yeah. And yet he's got a real gift at being able to zoom out, being able to zoom out and take the big picture perspective and kind of look at it from all right, not going to be overly emotional about this today because I know the long view. I know the long season's long, right? Yeah. And so sometimes you gotta pick your spots a little bit. And so I think that Coach Mooney did a tremendous job of showing me that. For Coach McKay, his daily pursuit of whole person development for everyone within the program, from the players to the coaches to the support staff, you name it. And he was really intentional about making sure that everyone knew how important that development is. And that is something that impacted me greatly during that 2-year process. And so that's something that I think those two guys in particular, as well as Lenny Acuff, who I worked for just 1 year, those three coaches, there's not a day that goes by that something that I learned from them isn't acted upon. Okay.
So as we look toward this season, let's talk a little hoops. What are your hopes and expectations? You're putting on a very young team. Yeah. Very young team. So what are your hopes and expectations, first part? And then give us a glimpse of what your defensive and offensive philosophies are, very, very briefly.
Yeah. I'll start with kind of the philosophical things first. The defensively, the desire would be a toughness and a grittiness. I know, again, that can come across as kind of coach speak.
Is gritty like Bobby Knight grit?
Coach Knight's a hard one. Anytime you say Coach Knight's name, that's going to impact certain people in a certain way. But he was a great coach and certainly had so many elements of his coaching that impacted the many coaches over time. But yeah, I would love for the teams to fiercely compete. Like we talk about with our guys, that we can love the Lord and pursue a deep faith walk and be fiercely competitive in the same, like you. So I think that we can compete within the confines of the game, and compete physically and be tough and gritty and desire to win in every way. And yet still hold our witness intact. Sure. And I think that is great when you can huddle up after a game, or you can shake hands after a game, and someone can truly respect the way that you competed. Mm-hmm. And so that's a desire. I mean, I think that every coach wants that in a different way. Okay. But I would hope that we would, in the way that we would compete, I would hope that we would glorify God with the talents that we've been given, and to do that competitively.
Okay. And back, you said earlier, Coach Jones, that one thing that you resonated with is the discipleship aspect. Mm-hmm. How will you go about discipling your players, not just your players though, your coaches as well, your team?
Yeah.
What's your plan for that aspect? Because that's paramount to who you are. Yeah,
no question. So the simple answer is every day. That I don't think that a discipleship is a 6-month plan, and you do this on Wednesdays and you do this on Tuesday. And I think it's everyday relationships, and kind of, I think questions reveal what we care about.
Yeah.
And so when I have conversations with our guys, what are the questions revolving around? And what am I feel like those are opportunities for me to plant seeds about what's important.
Yeah.
And so for our players and for our coaches, and ultimately that starts with me. Like you can't give away anything that you don't possess. And so I've got to work on my soul and making sure that I'm in a healthy place, so that I can impact others in that way. I think that individual conversations are really important, to know that you care about them on a personal level. The messaging to a team, what are the themes? What are the things that you talk about? What do you show? What do you praise? All those things. I think that sends a clear message to your team of what's truly important. And we talk about identity, and talking about where our identity is not going to come from a win or a loss. It's not going to come from basketball. Our identity rests in Christ. And we have to, as coaches, we have to model that every day. And we won't do it perfectly. And I think that's also a great learning lesson as well, is that we can teach through our failures. I can teach through mistakes that I've made in my life. To be honest enough with our locker room to say, I made a mistake, I didn't handle that correctly. Yeah. And I think that's a valuable lesson for young men, to see someone admit a mistake.
Yeah.
And so I try to, I think authentic leadership, authentic relationship, that's when it's really impactful. Yeah. So I never want to be in a position where I feel like I'm performing for our team or for a group of people or whatever it is. I want to be who God's created me to be, and lead in a way that I feel like is representative of a true Christian calling.
I know from my experience that usually when a new head coach comes in, so do new assistant coaches. Mm-hmm. So who are the coaches on your staff this year?
Yeah, so TJ Nagy, who
he's a holdover.
He's a holdover, and TJ has done a phenomenal job. He, from day one, as soon as I walked in the door, he has had to field so many questions of, where's this? Who do I talk to about this? How does this work? And he's been great. He did a great job with the players in that short period of time where there was no coach, and he did a tremendous job in helping those guys and supporting them and just saying, hey, let's hold tight.
And you didn't lose anybody.
No.
Which you could have.
Yeah, it's incredible in college basketball. Typically, when there's a coaching change, immediately half the roster heads off to another school. And I give TJ a lot of credit. He did a great job in being intentional in the relationships with each of those guys, but also being prayerful about it. And one of the messages, it's easy to say, but it's hard to walk through, is to say that God has a plan, and now we need to be patient and trust in the plan and see what God has in store for us. And again, I think, his message to the players in that waiting, that period of time, I think was really powerful. And I know the guys appreciated that,
sure.
And I know I appreciate that.
Yeah.
So he's done a terrific job. Dan McNeely, Dan had been a head coach at Maine Maritime Academy, a Division III school up in the state of Maine,
okay.
And he'd been a head coach for the past 6 years, and so I'm excited that Dan's joining the staff. He's got a ton of experience and a ton of reps, as we say, in terms of whether it be recruiting or travel or the organization of an office, and then of course the on-court coaching experience. He's got a lot of it, so I'm very thankful to have Dan a part of our staff as well.
And doesn't he have a connection to our area?
Yeah, so his wife Elizabeth, maiden name is Piles, and
okay.
Elizabeth was an athlete, is in the Hall of Fame here at Cedarville.
So my last question, and I really want to thank you for coming in and spending time with us today. So come March, season is wrapping up, you're in the playoffs or you're in postseason tournaments, whatever, hopefully you are.
Yeah.
How will you define your first season, whether it was a success or not?
Yeah. So I told our guys in one of the first meetings that we had as a team, we were sitting in the locker room for this meeting. It was one of the first times that we had all been together in the same place at one time. And I told them that my desire was that at the end of the season, regardless whether it was that locker room or it was another locker room on the road or whatever it is, but that when we got to that point, that the game will have just ended. Either it's a win and we've won some type of championship, or it's a loss and the season has come to an end. I hope that we would be sitting in that locker room, every one of us, coaches, players, just spent, fully exhausted, and the tank is on empty.
Yeah.
And that will have meant that we gave everything we had, and that we poured it all in, and that we went. We gave every bit of energy and effort to that, and whatever that result produces, it produces.
Yeah.
But I wanna go all in, and that's been what we've talked about each and every day. Is, can we be present in the moment? We know it's a long journey, but can we be present in the moment? Can we be faithful to this day in front of us? And let's just go all in.
Yeah.
And we'll see what result that produces.
That's a great leadership, and it's exciting. And I encourage those watching and listening to this podcast to, if your schedule permits, come out and see the Yellow Jackets this year at home or on the road. Doesn't matter. And I think you're going to really like this team, this coaching staff, this program, because they're going to do it the right way, and they're putting Jesus first. So, Coach Jones, I want to thank you for spending time with us on the podcast, and have a great first year here at Cedarville.
Thanks, Mark. I really appreciate that.
Thank you for listening to the Cedarville Stories podcast, brought to you by Cedarville University. To learn more about Cedarville University, visit our website at cedarville.edu. And be sure to come back next week when we'll share another Cedarville story for God's glory.